Hi, my name's Nina. I'm just a Swiftie with an English degree, and today we are talking about the song that might be the most important song for us to truly understand what in the world happened between Taylor Swift and Matty Healy. We've been slowly going through the Tortured Poets Department song by song and going through the lyrical context, talking about the lore of it all, but I thought it was important for us to go ahead and skip forward to the anthology so that we can talk about Chloe or Sam or Sophia or Marcus, because I really do think that it is probably one of the most important songs to understanding what actually happened. The song is just full of information. And if you're interested in deep diving into Taylor Swift lyrics and talking about the lore of it all and what things can mean, and you haven't subscribed to the channel, go ahead and subscribe. We have a lot to talk about and there's going to be a lot of songs. Now that you're watching and you've subscribed, let's start with "Your hologram stumbled into my apartment, hands in the hair of somebody in darkness named Chloe or Sam or Sophia or Marcus, and I just watched it happen."
Your hologram stumbled into my apartment, hands in the hair of somebody in darkness named...
Now, immediately, I think that these first two lines are incredibly important to understanding who we're talking about, okay? So I think that obviously a hologram didn't actually stumble into her apartment. I think that she is referring to like literally watching like a grainy live screen on her TV, or like maybe she is watching clips from a show. But I think that these lines are important for us to understand that this is about Matty Healy, because who has a habit of kissing random people from the audience at their shows? Matty Healy does. So when it says the hologram stumbled into my apartment, I think she's referring to like a live feed or like clips of a show, something like that. Hands in the hair of somebody in darkness named Chloe or Sam or Sophia or Marcus. That's just referring to the fact that he randomly pulls people from the stage. It doesn't matter if they're a man or a woman or whoever, he will pull them up. I think they do have to sign waivers, but yes, like this is something that he is very known for doing. So this immediately establishes this song is about Matty Healy, and she says, "And I just watched it happen."
Just watched it happen.
In this song, I truly believe like she released the song. I don't know when she wrote it. It's a mystery to me. I would imagine maybe when Midnight's was happening or like when Midnight's was in the works. But I feel like she released this song literally just so that we would go, oh, and understand. "And as the decade would play us for fools, and you saw my bones out with somebody new who seemed like he would have bullied you in school, and you just watched it happen."
As the decade would play us for fools, and you saw my bones out with somebody new.
I think this part is really important because it's obviously telling us that this relationship between the two of them was going on for a decade. As the decade would play us for fools, and you saw my bones out with somebody new. Notice she is not saying that they saw her heart or her soul or anything else with them, but just her bones, like her physical body was with them, who seemed like he would have bullied you in school, and you just watched it happen.
Seemed like he would have bullied you in school, and you just watched it happen.
I think that she is essentially referring to Calvin Harris here, because I think that there was a distinct, not overlap, but I think that the time period that she could have had a situation with Matty Healy around the 1989 era would have been around winter of 2015, and she immediately went from winter of 2015 into a relationship with Calvin Harris in March of 2016. So I think that she is essentially saying like that was the moment when this happened, and she jumped into that next relationship with a guy who looked like he would have bullied you in school, and you just watched it happen. And notice she is acknowledging that they both just watched it happen. They both just sat back and watched this happen. And she goes, "If you want to break my cold, cold heart, just say I loved you the way that you were. If you want to tear my world apart, just say you've always wondered."
If you wanna break my cold, cold heart, just say I loved you the way that you were.
And what is that saying? That is essentially saying that if you want to break my heart, tell me that you loved me in that moment back in 2014, 2015, before the fame got to her, before she became the thing on the hill, before she became too big, essentially, before the celebrity became too much.
And while I think that Taylor loves being famous and she loves a celebrity, I don't know that she loves the repercussions for those that are around her and what her life has to look like with the celebrity itself. Matty Healy once referred to being around her like being around Obama because of just the affair, like the amount of people that come out, the amount of security that she has. So I think that this was something that truly did bother her.
I think that's what Taylor was talking about when she says that sometimes she does feel like she's the monster on the hill, that she is too big to hang out, slowly lurking through your favorite city, pierced through the heart but never killed. Like I feel like she does feel like her life and her celebrity makes her too big. She almost cannot fit in with a normal world and a normal life. And is there anything more heartbreaking than that, to think like, if you want to break my heart, tell me that this could have worked with the person that I was then, that this could have worked then, that you always wondered. Like, if you understand why this moment in time in particular was driving her crazy, because she had this idea and this sense of fatalism with Matty Healy, and she was going back and forth on what would it mean, what would this do to my career, what like, does he even still like me, or does he just like the person that I was in 2014 when I was in between this very specific situation? And I think she is wondering and thinking about all of those things in this moment. Now we get some tea. She says, "You said some things that I can't unabsorb. You turned me into an idea of sorts. You needed me, but you needed drugs more, and I couldn't watch it happen."
You said some things that I can't unabsorb. You turned me into an idea of sorts.
And so that tells us so much about what happened between the relationship with them in the past. So she is essentially saying here that he told her things that she can't stop thinking about. And I'm assuming that these things were something akin to, "You're the love of my life. We complement each other so wonderfully. Like, we could be forever." I imagine that those might be some of the things that were told to her. She can't get out of her head the fact that they may be perfect for each other. But the problem at that time period when this happened was, you needed me, but you needed drugs more, and I couldn't watch it happen.
You needed me, but you needed drugs more, and I couldn't watch it happen.
So she, because of his drug use, whether that was because it could impact her career and impact the way that fans saw her, or just because of her personal reasons, she didn't, want to go through the pain of drug addiction and having that in a partner, she couldn't watch it happen. And Matty Healy would go to rehab in 2017. So, I mean, the time period when he met Taylor, and a lot of this was likely going on, was before he went to rehab. So it would have been in the midst of his heroin addiction. And so this was a big part of him at the time. "I changed into goddesses, villains, and fools, changed plans and lovers, and outfits and rules, all to outrun my desertion of you, and you just watched it."
Changed into goddesses, villains, and fools. Changed plans and lovers, and outfits and rules.
I'm literally picturing with "I changed into goddesses, villains, and fools," I am picturing the Carmen music video. Like, she literally does change into goddesses, villains, and fools in that video. It says change plans and lovers and outfits and rules. I think that's referring to the fact that she jumped into a relationship. I personally believe that when she had this relationship with Matty Healy, it was end of 2014, beginning of 2015, somewhere in there, winter area in that time period. And she was in some type of situationship with Matty Healy, whether she just like dated him and they flirted and like she thought like, "Oh my God, this dude could be exactly like me. Too bad I can't date him." Like, something happened to like spark her interest in him around this time period. Like, she went to multiple concerts, where the deep dive of this situation is coming, but like, she went to multiple concerts during this time period. There was a lot going on. So I think that she went from this intense moment with Maddie, and she jumped into the relationship with Calvin Harris to jump out of it. So she changed plans and lovers and outfits and rules. The rules that she changed, I think, is about like dropping Folklore and Evermore without any warning. Like, she literally changed the rules on how you can put forth a new album in popular music, like by dropping Evermore and just dropping Folklore. So it's like this constant back of her mind thought this entire decade, when she is literally changing the rules on how music can be created, changing the rules on how masters can be owned with, re-recording her masters in the Taylor's version and everything. Like, she has done all of this,
all to outrun my desertion of you.
Referring to Matty Healy. Almost makes me wonder, is she saying that she worked so hard and became so successful all to avoid my desertion of you. It was like she went for more and more fame because the love part, the fatalism, the sense of belonging, and this is what I have always been meant for in the love department, you know, like romantically, like that wasn't there. Is that what she's saying? Is that what she's saying? And I think before, when she says you turned me into an idea of sorts, I think that that is important too, because she is essentially saying that you turned me into an idea, because the reality of being with Taylor Swift is like, yes, like Taylor Swift the person, but you also will always have Taylor Swift the celebrity. So the idea and the reality of the two things, like what it's like to live life underneath that celebrity bubble with you know, people following you all the time, all of that, I don't know that Matty Healy was ready for that. If the glint in my eye traced the depths of your sigh down that passage in time, back to the moment I crashed into you like so many wrecks do, too impaired by my youth to know what to do.
If the glint in my eye traced the depths of your sigh down that passage in time, back.
And I think that this is a reflection of the first time that they met, right? Like if she can, if the thought of this, the glint of her eye, can trace the depths of his sigh, which I think is also very interesting, down that passage in time, if they can go back in time to the moment where she crashed into him, like so many wrecks do, too impaired by her youth to know what to do. So she's essentially saying that she crashed into him, was so overcome with emotion because she was young and she didn't know essentially whether it was better to be safe or starry-eyed. And that is what I read from this, is that she was too impaired by youth to know what to do.
I crashed into you like so many wrecks do, too impaired by my youth to know what to do.
Whether it was better to be safe or to be starry-eyed, whether she follows her heart or her head, she didn't know what to do. And here we are a decade later, and now she knows. Now she knows. So if I sell my apartment and you have some kids with an internet starlet, will that make your memory fade from the scarlet maroon like it never happened?
If I sell my apartment and you have some kids with an internet starlet.
So I think from here, she is essentially saying, if I sell my apartment, if I sell the link to you, which I'm assuming she's referring to her New York apartment, like that where time would have been spent together. I'm assuming it possibly even could have been London. I don't know. I mean, but if I sell my apartment and you have some kids with an internet starlet, the woman that Maddie was dating previous to Taylor Swift is actually the woman that he is still dating now. He got back into a relationship with her. Her name is Gabriette. She doesn't deserve any hate or anything, but she is an internet starlet. So that is a referral, I think, to her specifically. Will that make your memory fade from the scarlet maroon? So if he were to move on, and if she were to sell the link to him and try to move on in her life, would this make the memory fade from the scarlet maroon? And of course, maroon is interesting because it's a throwback to the song Maroon, which I also think is also referring to Matty Healy, which we will be getting into maybe even this week, maybe next week. I don't know. It's one of the ones that I want to do really quickly. But I think that that's very important because that's a reference specifically back to Maroon, which is talking about a moment when she was dancing with him in New York and I chose you, which I'm assuming is referring to Matty Healy. And that's also why I'm assuming that she is talking about her New York apartment. See, we're all just reading lyrical tea leaves. I'm making assumptions, but it makes sense, doesn't it? So I think it's interesting that she says from this scarlet maroon, which I think is also just like, she's, I think, trying to say that it is like a brighter, passionate, like fierce maroon. And that's why she's saying scarlet. But literary terms, Scarlett O'Hara is a literary character who literally destroyed every good romantic relationship that she ever had because she was pining for this guy who she had a sense of fatalism with. And I think that in this moment when she is writing, or Chloe or Sam or Sophia or Marcus, like she is wondering that. She is probably in a relationship with Joe. I don't think she was terribly unhappy. I think she was just kind of bored. I don't think that she was unhappy with Joe. I think that Joe was generally a good boyfriend to her, and I don't think that she has said anything horrible about him, really. I mean, she essentially said he was boring. I mean, I think that she was sitting in a relationship where she felt comfortable and she wanted to bejewel, and she is sitting there wondering, Am I willing to throw all of this away and be willing to give all of this up because I wonder? But I wonder, is what she's saying, but I still wonder, will I always wonder? And I also think it's important, like, that she says, will that make your memory fade from this scarlet maroon like it never happened?
Like it never happened.
Because it's not just something that you can get over, right? Like, she needs it to be like it never happened, because for the past decade, it has happened, and it has dug its way into the back of her mind, and apparently it has driven everything that she's done. I mean, she is essentially saying it needs to be like it never happened. I need to forget for me to be happy, because if she remembers, she can't be happy, is I think what she's saying. And I think this is a little bit of like bartering. Could it be enough to just float in your orbit?
Could it be enough to just float in your orbit?
Can we watch our phantoms like watching wild horses?
Can we watch our phantoms like watching wild horses?
Cooler in theory, but not if you force it to be. It just didn't happen.
Cooler in theory, but not if you force it to be. It just didn't happen.
And I think she's saying here that, can I be satisfied just floating in your orbit? I truly believe that around the time period that Midnights was being made, and maybe even before that, I think that they lived in the same city. Maddie Healy and Taylor Swift were both living in London, different parts of London, but both in London. And I think that they did float in each other's orbit, and they maybe did see them in, you don't live in my part of town, but maybe I'll see you at some weekend. I think that that was kind of the relationship that they had at that time. So she's wondering, is that enough? Can that satisfy me enough? Can we watch our phantoms like watching wild horses? And I also thought the mention of wild horses was interesting, because a wild horse is a horse that really just kind of exists as a pretty thing because you can't tame them, or at least you're not supposed to. They really do not recommend that you attempt to tame a wild horse. So you're watching our phantoms, like watching wild horses, like a horse that can never be tamed. And maybe that's kind of how she views when she was younger and when this happened. Like, we are watching our phantoms, like watching wild horses. It's cooler in theory, but not if you force it to be. It just didn't happen. This is that in-between place. Maybe it just didn't happen, and maybe she should be okay with that. But if you want to break my cold, cold heart, say you loved me.
Say you loved me.
And if you want to tear my world apart, say you'll always wonder.
Say you'll always wonder.
And that is the thing that eats her up, is wondering. 'Cause I wonder.
'Cause I wonder.
Will I always wonder?
I always wonder.
And that's how she leaves the song. She leaves it open-ended like that. 'Cause I wonder, will I always wonder? And we now know that she is no longer wondering. She now is in a happy relationship, and I think that when she found out, she maybe was not happy to no longer be wondering, but I think now Taylor is in a good place. But I think that it was important for us to go through Chloe or Sam or Sophia or Marcus, because I think that this is a very important song when understanding what happened with Matty Healy, even if it's just from like the emotions that she's feeling when she is looking back at what was. Can I be bored and potentially unhappy? Should I just be content? Because I think that Joe was a good guy, and I think she genuinely did love him. But will I always wonder? And I think that that was her answer, that she would always wonder. And I think that when he gave her a sign, they were no longer wondering, and we know what happened. So let me know if you guys have any questions about this song, or if there are any other song suggestions that you want me to look into. I definitely want to do Maroon. I'm looking at other options for Folklore, Evermore, past tracks as well. But we're going to, of course, be continuing down with Tortured Poets Department as well, because I think the Tortured Poets Department has so many important songs for us to look. Also, we'll have a mega deep dive of the relationship between Matty Healy and Taylor and things that happen. That'll be coming in the next couple weeks. But let me know any other, songs that you want me to look into, or any other recommendations for things that you want to see on the channel. I love looking at context in Taylor's lyrics and things like that. So anything related to songs, context, lyrical analysis, throw them my way and I would love to look at them. If you haven't liked or subscribed, please do. It helps out the channel so much. And, I am still a young channel. I am still trying to grow. So anything, any, subscriptions or likes or anything, I appreciate. Thank you guys so much for watching. Leave any questions, requests, recommendations in the comments below, and I will see you guys next time. Thanks. Bye.